Okay, hello everyone. I have, well, the two Kates. I have my colleague and sales manager from Think Smart Software, Kate Markham, on the top left. And we have Kate Ball from Mini First Aid down the bottom. So,
Hi.
Hi.
the two Kates, thank you for joining us. So, Kate from Mini First Aid. I keep seeing Mini First Aid popping up all over the place, which is fantastic. I've had hundreds of clients go through your course, and I thought this video would be great to kind of give a bit of a background on Mini First Aid, what the course is about, and just kind of go through some of the questions I know myself and the other Kate are getting on the phone at the moment. So,
Okay, cool.
Would you like to give us a bit of a background on yourself and Mini First Aid?
I'll tell you about Mini First Aid and the sort of heritage of Mini First Aid. So we started, the business started 6 years ago when I had a very sensible 2 children. Nice, sensible number. I've now gone on and I now have 6 children. But with the 2 children, one of the things that I discovered in my corporate job was that it was very difficult for me to get a work-life balance. So I was looking at children's activities and what sort of business could I run. And at the time, there wasn't anything happening in the market around first aid. And first aid skills in itself are one of the most important lessons that you ever learn. However, it's sort of deemed as a bit of a dry subject. So sort of people see it as something that's a bit dull. You've got to do it for a tick box exercise. And so I wanted to take something that was an essential life skill. We had some pretty powerful family background where my brother had passed away, and we felt that we wanted to do something that was in his memory, so to speak, but also to make sure that as many people as possible learnt CPR. And so I started this first aid business, and to be brutally honest, I started it at my kitchen table with people paying me £20. They bring it as a £20 note and put it in my jar that I go and pay in at the bank to learn basic first aid skills. And we've grown from that to a franchise business of now 70 franchises across the UK. And we're training over 1,000 parents and carers each week in basic first aid. Thinking about from the point where you call, something happens, to the point where the ambulance arrives, it's that gap that we help parents to know what to do, the panic gap, as we sometimes call it. And then we've branched out, so we've expanded the business as we've become recognised in the industry, and people are turning to us and saying, do you do stuff for kids? Do you do stuff for activity providers, etc.? So we've started our qualification course provision and also our children's courses as well. And we've been just motoring through training people across the UK, and in a quite a relaxed style, so that people come away having felt really confident in first aid. And we had the opportunity through the Children's Activities Association to use our expertise in our style of training delivery. And in this style, for our infection control course, this was an online based learning, was to deliver a course that was specifically for our customer base effectively. So it was specifically for those that provide activities for children. And we've taken a course and made sure that not only is it just a good information give, but also that people remember it and they don't go away afterwards going, I did that because I was told to do it, but actually they can remember what they've done.
Amazing.
So that's the background to it. But so it's been a very
that with 6 children, Kate. Well played.
I know.
I think everyone's probably thinking, how have you got that many franchisees and 6 children? So
there is this phrase, isn't there, that busy people just get busier, and I think that is us. And I drive my friends and family mad that just when you think we should probably take a little break or what have you, we come up with something else, and that's exactly what's happened here with this new course. We're in the middle of lockdown, we've got all our children at home. Our business, our teaching business has changed because we've had to move to being online and via Zoom. And actually, we could have taken a little bit of a break, but no, instead we've gone, right, let's bring a new course to market and be really busy with that. So yeah, we don't stop.
Well, look, I mean, I'm on the board of the Children's Activity Association, and seeing how quickly we're able to develop something, I think when COVID was thrown on us all, we had to adapt very quickly. And I mean, the course you've created is fantastic. And like I said at the start, we're getting tons of good feedback. I mean, do you want to give us a bit of information on the course? I mean, we know it's an online course.
Yeah.
And how long it takes, and just a bit of info on that.
You would expect, if you were taking the course online, you would expect, if you sat down and did it start to finish, you'd expect it to take between 2 to 3 hours. But the wonderful thing about this course is you can start and stop it, and return back to it. So it means that if you are, as many, I'm sure, of the members will be of the Children's Activity Association, as they may have children themselves or busy lives, especially at the moment, is that you could say, actually, I'm going to give an hour of my evening this evening to study, and then actually I'm going to do some more. And it's based on continuous assessment, which means that you have to pass a section to move on. And if you don't get the answers right, you have to go back over a section and relearn. So it's basically, when the style of teaching reflects the way that we teach at Mini First Aid, which is that we give the information, then we give examples, then we tell you again, and then we test you on it. And if you've not got it, tell you again and we test you on it. And the idea is to make sure that not only for COVID-19, but for all areas of infection control, perhaps for some businesses where it's an area that they've not even thought about or covered before, that they've got all the bases covered to give the parents of their users, so the children, confidence that if they're sending their children back, that the providers are in the know in this minefield that is now infection control that is changing, and so people need to know what they do.
One of the things we did at the CAA was we did a survey for parents, which has now been published, and I think out of like 3,100 parents, something like 92% of them said they would feel more comfortable coming back to classes if they knew their providers and their teachers had gone through some sort of course to say that they've taken it seriously and they've learned the things that they need to learn. Because there's a lot to learn. It's not just clean your equipment at the end of the class. There's so many other parts which people just don't think of, but it's also vital for them to know.
I think it's learning also that when we start the course, the very beginning of the course teaches you about what causes an infection, how germs are transferred, what are the 3 things that need to be in place for a germ to move around, how does a germ get transferred. And obviously with this course being particularly timely because of COVID-19, that we refer to coronavirus a lot throughout the course, but it's just so that people actually understand, because it's fine to say, okay, right, we're all going to learn to wash our hands. We all know we've got to sing happy birthday twice to make sure we've got our hands nice and clean. But do we genuinely understand why we're doing that? Do we understand why it's so important and what happens to germs on the skin and how they're transferred and all that sort of stuff is so important. And like you said, it's not just cleaning the equipment, because it's also thinking about all these users coming in, which are your germ carriers, and then how potentially it can be transmitted to others. And the other thing that we know, and again we talk about in the course, is that sometimes people say, yes, but children are low risk. There's all these stats that say that children don't suffer as badly with coronavirus, but what they know from the stats is that children are just as likely to transmit coronavirus, and they're just as likely to get coronavirus. But what we do know is that children, once they get it, don't necessarily suffer as badly or aren't as poorly. That's generally what happens. But that's not to say then that they take themselves as a person carrying the virus, and they're with an adult or with somebody else in their family, particularly someone that's vulnerable or susceptible to coronavirus, and that's where the transmission is of most concern. So it's almost like how the children's activity professionals make sure that they're not the mechanism to make the germs travel further, because they're infection control.
My teachers have done that, so as part of my Baby Ballet franchise, and they've actually all really enjoyed the course and they've all learned a lot from it, things that they didn't know before. So I think it's been really good for them.
Yeah,
Kate, you made all of your teachers go through it, didn't you?
Yeah, all of the teachers need to do it, I feel, because they're all out there teaching in different venues, different environments. So it's really important that, you know, they go through the course. As far as I'm concerned, as a franchise owner, I want my parents to know that we're doing the best we can to prevent the spread of infection.
It was really important, and that's why we had to get the price point right, because we wanted to make it so that it was an achievable investment for people to say, I am going to put my whole team through it. Because if you think of that game of Chinese whispers where you say a phrase and then you pass it down the line, sometimes when that's communicated to the very end person of the line, the message might have got mixed up. So actually what you want is you want every person having that knowledge at the front of it. So they all want to do the training, so they get the information. There's nobody then having to take responsibility for telling everybody else.
No.
And for parents, you can say to them, 100% of my staff are trained.
Yeah, just great.
If I put my mum hat on and my 6 children are all going to be going back to various activities over the coming months, I want to know that the people that are teaching them have done infection control training, and not just the owner of their business, but in fact the teachers involved. So I think that's great, Kate, that you've done that. Fantastic.
Oh, thank you.
Big tick in the box, Kate.
Baby ballet.
I mean, another thing when I've been speaking to some providers, they've said, they're all trying to cut back on expenses, and, we all know financially everyone's struggling a little bit from or even a lot.
Mm-hmm.
So we've had some providers say, well, there's lots of free courses online. We can go online, do a free course in 20 minutes, get a certificate. And my view on that is, we spoke before, it's just, you get what you pay for. And I think when people have said, why would I pay, say, £20 to do a course when I can do it for free? What would your kind of answer to that be?
So there's a couple of things. You're absolutely right around you get what you pay for. And I think that's true across the board, is that first of all, anything that's online or free isn't necessarily going to be regulated. So if you think about the development of this course and the dialogue back between us and the Children's Activities Association, for the Children's Activity Association to put their stamp on it, we had to make sure it was absolutely perfect. We also then had to make sure that if we were going to allow people to achieve CPD points as part of doing the training, that again, that needed to be recognised and verified. And also is that we needed to have a test at the end so that people could actually pass or fail. So an awful lot of the free courses are just information to read. There's no test, there's nothing to say, actually, I now understand this information. And that's why we've put the test in place. And then the certificate says that you've been taught and you've passed an infection control course. And we then have a badge to go, which you can download as a JPEG, which you can apply to your website or to any of your marketing materials to say, I have done this infection control training and I am trained and I am assessed. And I think that's really, really important. So yes, you can go and get a free one, but actually in the long run, if I think about what put my parent hat on, I'm looking for somebody carrying a logo and carrying a qualification that comes from a reputable source, is verified and is accredited, and anything not, in the long run, you might go, oh, I'll do it to save money. But actually, where a parent's going to move with their children, they're going to move to the places that have invested and have demonstrated that they've done it through a proper source. So that's our feeling on it. We get challenged on it just in our first aid business a lot. People say, why do I need a first aid class? I could just watch a first aid video online. Well, yes, you can, but whether we actually then know you've learned it properly, you understand it, you're putting the principles into place, literally in first aid, could be a life or death situation. So it's just, I think it's really important to say, actually doing this course, the qualification, the logo at the end, who it's been accredited, all gives you a real sort of head and shoulders above anything else that might be on.
I agree. For me, if I see something that's free like that around first aid, I would be really worried about how credible that was. And as a business owner working in this sector, I want to make sure that I'm doing right by all the children that come through our doors and the teachers and the parents. So I wouldn't be going for anything free.
It's playing our bit as well. If everyone plays their bit, keeps it safe as possible and follows the rules, it's hopefully going to keep this under control. And that's one thing that we at the CAA wanted to do for our sector, is just promote consistency. Rather than having 20 different courses that we promote, and there's the free ones, there's the paid ones, you just wanted to go, this is for our sector, it's designed for us, it's by providers, for providers, this is the one to go for.
Absolutely.
And how many, time seems to be disappearing. Every time I think something was last week, someone says to me it was 6 weeks ago. So then when did we release this? It was a good couple of weeks ago, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was. And we've had over 700 people through the training already.
Wow.
And that's actual used logins, because obviously you can buy the login and then log in and use it when you're ready to do the training. So we know that some people have actually bought the logins but haven't activated. But we've got 700 that have been activated and passed so far. So, and that's great. I mean, that was when I checked. That's when we checked the figures yesterday evening. So no doubt they've changed again, which is great. So what we do know is there's an opportunity for an awful lot more people to do the training. But we know that those people that have literally jumped on and done it straight away is fantastic. It shows that there was an obvious need for it, and that people have made it a priority and got on and done it. So yeah, it's great.
That's brilliant.
Wow.
700 providers in a couple of weeks. I mean, just to add to your workload. I mean, that's fantastic. That's really good.
No, yeah, it's and it's fine. You know, as with all of these things, you know, we have the occasional admin where somebody might enter the wrong email address, and then they might say, "I've not got my." So that's the bit that's been sort of the time for us. But the actual, once people are on and using the course, they can then download their certificate, the logo to put on their website, and that all works automatically, which is great. And that's one of the great things that we've had in feedback from people is, I don't then need to talk to you again. So I'm a busy person. I'm running my busy children's activity, or I'm preparing to reopen. So actually, I've got to do this course in the evening after I've put my kids to bed or whatever, and they can do that without having to think, oh, I need to ring somebody at some centre to get some help. So it's running really smoothly, and that's some of the feedback that we've had. We've also had, which has been great, is that we've had quite a lot of businesses who've run the training actually take the Children's Activity Association logo and the logo from completing the course, and put it into some social media advertising, and so it's great. So we've been tagging and resharing on our channels as well, which is great. So there's sort of
that's brilliant.
building for it through that as well, which is great.
The more awareness we all spread about what our sector's doing, the better. The more people then come through the doors and realise how much we're all doing to keep people safe.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
Now, obviously, you said a question before about there's some people that think, you know, why would I do a paid one when there's a free one? I've also had some people that have said, but I've read the government guidelines. I've looked, I know that I need to wear, for instance, at the moment, face masks, and I know I need to clean and do this stuff. Some people might be thinking, why do I even need to do a course? As long as I'm clean and safe, why do I need to?
It's interesting. So first thing first is that the government guidelines go to what you need to do, but they don't necessarily help you understand why you need to do them. So that's the first thing with training, is that what you need to do comes after the fact. You need to understand about germs, how infection is transmitted, etc. Because if you understand that, then it makes the understanding of what you've got to do a lot easier. It also helps you talk with a lot more conviction to your parents, to get them to hand sanitize, them to understand, to explain to the children why they're going to need to wash their hands, etc. And that helps you a lot more if you actually understand what's behind it. The other thing with the government guidelines is, if you've ever spent much time hanging out on the government website guidelines, is it's just an epic amount of data.
It's a headache. It is a headache when you go on there.
And actually, it's a really hard thing, and I think sometimes if you run a business that actually that's not your forte, that's not the thing that you specialize in, is reading reams and reams and reams of guidance, that actually that can be an absolute minefield. And the other thing is, it changes. So what happens in our training is that when you do the training, you can revisit the training, but also is that it has live links. So with the live links, it makes sure that it's constantly updated, because we needed to make sure that if things change or advice changes, that the course doesn't become outdated. And frankly, we hope we're saving people some time, because the time that we have spent in preparing the course with our online platform is time that I will never get back from spending time on the government websites. It's just incredible amounts of, and that's what you hear document, is people saying, I just don't know where to look. You know, we know from various groups, social media groups, etc., where activity professionals are talking to each other, that they can't make one end of these.
No, it's so confusing. Yeah.
And thank you for trawling through the government guidelines.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was. I think I should say somewhere it was a pleasure, but you know, I think it had to be done. You know, and I think it's. I think if it means that it saves people feeling mind boggled with it, then, because that can be, you know, people can be nervous, never mind the users of businesses, the providers of services can be nervous about just going back into business, starting up again, if they're not 100% sure that they really understand things and feel like they should because everybody else seems to understand it and probably we're all in the same fog together. So that's why having clear training tells you what you've got to do and also what's relevant for your sector, strips out all the stuff that's not relevant, you know, and actually goes, right, what's do you need as a children's activity provider?
That's where you get what you pay for.
Yeah.
It's tailored for our sector, which is great. And I suppose before we finish up, I'm sure people are waiting till the end of the video to go, well, how much is it? So would you like to give a bit of a summary on just what the costs are? There's obviously a CAA member cost and there's a non-member cost.
Right, so we have a list price of £20 per person, but for members of the CAA, then the price is £9.99. So you can go through, if you're recognised as there's a link which all Children's Activity Association members have been sent through various correspondence. You can also find that through the Mini First Aid website. But also, we've also had some providers who we've spoken to who are not CAA members who said, actually, this is worth me joining the CAA right now, actually take this this discount available for us as CAA members. So hopefully it sees a boost in membership for the CAA as well in a positive way.
Because it has. And even £20 when people are thinking, I don't want to pay for something when there's a free thing, it's £20.
Yeah.
The amount of money we're all saving on fuel and, you know, cost of coffees and things.
Price of a takeaway.
Worth the money.
20 quid, it's price of takeaway. And it's actually, it goes back right to the sort of the heritage of Mini First Aid, is that I always wanted to have a business that was priced at a point where it was affordable, that it didn't rule people out because they didn't have budget. And quite a lot of providers sometimes, especially when there's a demand, or you could say, you know, could be seen to be cashing in, and we wanted to say, actually, let's get something that instead is affordable and is at a price point where everyone says, yeah, that works with my budget, I can do that. So
Yeah.
Well, look, I mean, I think we've covered a lot. I really appreciate you jumping on this call, as I know how busy you are. Kate number 2, I didn't give you much choice. I wanted you on the call, so thank you for joining.
Nice to meet you, Kate, as well.
Lovely to meet you. Yeah.
Great to chat with you, and I'm sure we'll be keeping in contact, and look forward to seeing how many more people go through the course.
Yeah, brilliant. Thanks for having me on.
I'll put a link in the video for how to access the course as well.
Brilliant. Thank you.
Fantastic. Well, we'll see you later.
See you later. Bye. Bye.